Hello and good day, everyone. We are the Group 1 students from TM32, and today we're going to present to you the Chapter 1 of this course. Our topic for today is all about the tourism planning process. But before anything else, allow us to please introduce ourselves. Hi, everyone. I am Janine Bernardo, and for this group report, I go by the name Jade.
And I'm Joanna Miel de Vera as Sasha.
And my name is Laika May BANAY as Yasmin.
And lastly, I am David Cal L. Reyes, and I go by the name by Chloe.
Okay, thank you. And we are the Bratz dolls. The reason why we chose these particular characters to portray today is because Bratz dolls have a lot of unique features that made them more competitive in the doll market. And similarly, our topic will teach you about how planning makes something unique and have a competitive advantage. And so with that, let's get started. Next slide, please. First things first, by the end of today's lesson, students should be able to first explain what tourism planning is, its nature and its importance, discuss the steps in the tourism planning process, identify the macro and micro environmental factors that affect tourism planning, and explain the importance of the factors to tourism planning in the local context. Next slide, please. Introduction. Tourism planning is a deliberate process for identifying the activities that enable a tourism enterprise or destination to realize its goals. As you can see from the word itself, planning. So alam naman nating lahat kung ano meaning nito, ano? Pero in terms of this field, it talks about how tourism is also incorporated with the idea of planning o yung pagkakaroon natin ng sapat na kaalaman kung paano nga ba may exhibit yung actions and yung proseso. Kasi 'di ba, before you do something, kailangan na pag-aralan mo munang mabuti to easily distinguish and achieve your goals. So there's this one definition of planning that I like, and it is using the past to decide now what you want to do in the future. And in this definition, we can see that the past, present, and future are interlinked, and I find it so witty or creative. So what do we get from our past? Yung past kasi natin, yan yung source natin ng experiences. Good or bad pa yan, we also get insights and syempre information na rin. So whether we admit it or not, kahit na past na siya o siya pa rin or ito pa rin pala. Ito pa rin yung mare-retain sa atin as something na nakatulong sa atin to be knowledgeable about different aspects in life to give us better judgments. Sa present naman, dito na tayo kasalukuyang gumagawa ng mga decision at pinaplano yung mga bagay-bagay. Like ano yung next step, what should we do after this? Pinaprepare na natin yung sarili natin sa future. And speaking of future, like what I said, ito na yung pinagpaplanuhan natin. Now, there are many unknowns about the future. Sino ba naman sa atin ang 100% sure na sa future nila, di ba? Pero katulad na lang sa tourism planning, what you can do is predict it first. Picture it in your mind, manifest your dreams or goals mo sa pamamagitan ng pagre-rely sa mga natutunan mo from your past events, mga trends, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Ayan, the nature of tourism planning. So upon reading the provided textbook, tourism planning has various characteristics pala. So first is, it varies in terms of scope and timeline. Siyempre, may pagbabasehan ka na scope of the study and when it was published. Next, it is a collaborative process, and when we say collaborative, may collaboration na nangyayari. Let's say na it is a group work. Open yung floor sa pag-interchange ng ideas, information, skills that are coming from other people involved in the planning process. They may be the customers, clients, workmates, or yung mga professionals, which leads us to the next bullet na different experts are exchanged. Next is that it varies in terms of the number of people involved. So depende na lang kung sino at ilan yung mga taong involved dito. And last is that it can be specific or comprehensive. Simply put na pwede siyang direct to the point or specific o kaya naman simple lang. Or pwede rin namang it has all the complete details. So example ng tourism plans, it can cover the following. We have attraction, tourist seat, or tourist visit, tourist circuit, tourism cluster, or tourism development area. And sa places naman, pwede siyang mag-focus ka in particular town, city, province, or go broader like region, country, or several countries. Next slide. Now, the DOT Tourism Guidebook for local government units have distinguished these tourism areas. So as you can see on the PowerPoint presentations, first, the tourism sites. These are the specific places that tourists come to see and experience. Aware naman na tayo about sa mga tourist sites, ano? Pwede itong mga natural attraction like yung mga chocolate hills, pwede rin namang mga man-made attractions o gawa ng mga tao like the BANAY rice terraces. And of course, included din yung mga places na patuloy pa rin na nagde-develop hanggang ngayon kahit na na-close siya temporarily for recovery reasons like yung Boracay. Next is the tourism development clusters. These are areas that have sufficient number and range of tourism sites. So ito yung mga lugar na may kakayanan na i-meet yung long-term development possibilities ng isang destination or tourist sites. Halimbawa, yung mga may magagandang topographical or physical features, maluwang o malalawak na kaya i-accommodate yung large mass ng potential tourism products and experiences. So basically, this is where the gateway of a place is located. So ito yung mga lugar na unang pupuntahan ng mga turista para makapunta sa mga tourist attractions. So fun fact lang, the Philippines is actually the gateway to Asia, and galing to sa relationship between US and our country. And it refers to the American traders' way investing into Asia. So there you have it. Next one is the tourism development areas. Next slide, please. There you go. It consists of at least one, but usually several tourism sites. By virtue, ang isang tourism development area, meron na siyang mga attractions, facilities, and amenities na makakapagbigay serbisyo sa mga interest and needs ng mga turista. Halimbawa sa Central Luzon, ano ba yung mga province dito? So we have Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, Bulacan, Zambales, Bataan, Aurora, and yung mga provinces na to, may mga cities in which marami kang mapupuntahang tourist sites. So that's what we call a cluster of tourism development areas. And lastly, for my part, it is the strategic destination areas. These are a group of priority TDA or tourism development areas that are adjacent to each other and are within their respective clusters. So basically, ito yung mga lugar na may konti lang or minimal pa yung amount of attractions, facilities, and yung mga services. Or simply put, hindi pa ganun ka-develop or urbanized kung tawagin. And of course, there are rooms for improvements and developments. So para sa akin naman siguro, lahat ng destination dumaan sa pagiging hindi mo na talaga kilala, di ba? Unless someone like a traveler or an expert would discover places na may potential maging tourist sites. So STAs are a group of TDAs na nagkikling to each other para mag-work together for developments ng area na kinabibilangan nila. And to continue with the discussion, may we have Sasha Girl for her part.
Thank you, Jade. So for the continuation of the report of Miss Jade, here is one of the nature of tourism planning. First is plan may also vary in terms of the time horizon. So in many literary works about planning, short term may be from 1 to 2 years, medium term will be for up to 5 years, and long term for 10 years or more. So tourism development plans may be made to coincide with the term of the local officials, which is in multiples of 3 years. So ano nga ba ibig sabihin ng time horizon? It means yung pagpaplano daw is pwedeng maiba depende sa timeline na gagawin mo. Just like for example, yung plan mo could be for 1 year or 3 years or 6 years to 9 years. So it is about creating a timeline for a project. So having a timeline can improve communication so that everyone knows who is doing what. So moreover, it allows other team members to get involved quickly and efficiently when it comes to relying the right information to the right team members. So mas mapapadali din ang pagtatrack ng progress sa nasabing project na pinaplano nyo. So let's say you do happen to fall behind schedule with the project. So syempre, ang advantage of having a project timeline is that you can recognize when you've fallen behind sa due date as soon as possible, and you can react as quickly as possible too. That's why when you properly plan your project with a timeline, you get to understand how damaging a delay can be. And it also improve motivation. So your members find it easier to stay motivated when they can see a timeline in front of them, as it helps to sharpen their focus and discipline. Second is a plan must also be hierarchical. Sorry. So this means that a local tourism plan must be consistent with a larger plan, starting with a provincial tourism plan, regional tourism development plan, and national tourism development plan. So dito na papasok yung levels of tourism planning. So tourism planning is implemented at different levels, from the general level, which may apply to an entire country or region, down to the local level, which may apply to detailed planning for a specific resort. So what is important to emphasize is that tourism planning and development must be integrated among all levels to take into account different levels of concerns and to avoid duplications of efforts and policies. So doon na nga pumapasok yung levels of tourism, which is the international level, national level, and regional level, and sub-region level. So in international level, it involves more than one country and includes areas such as international transportation service, joint tourism marketing, regional tourism policies and standards, cooperation between sectors of member countries, and other cooperative concerns. In national level, it is concerned naman siya sa national tourism policy, structure planning, transportation networks within the country, major tourism attractions, national level facility and service standards, and tourism education and training and marketing of tourism. While in the regional level, it is done by provinces, states, or prefectures involving regional policy and infrastructure planning, regional access and transportation network, and other related functions at the regional level. And last, in sub-region level, andito na yung mga cities, towns, villages, resorts, rural areas, and some tourist attractions. So it was focused on the tourism area plans and land use planning for resorts and planning for the other tourism facilities and attractions. Third is the a master planning theme consists of experts in lands like human resources development, disaster risk reduction, architecture, product development, marketing, finance, and community development and environment. So having an expert in land is extremely important for a wide range of a project you might have. Because before building something on a new plot, it is important to have someone help plan the project due to the amount of technical details you'll have to pay attention to in order for the project to run smoothly. Syempre, kapag magpaplano ka ng isang tourist attraction or establishment, syempre kailangan mo ng mga experts. Lalo na halimbawa, yung place pala na napili mo is prone siya sa mga earthquake. So kailangan natin doon is yung mga expert about dun sa land. So next is national or local government agencies may hire a consulting firm to formulate the tourism plan. So the consulting firm will contract external experts to form the planning team. The firm will usually assign its staff to manage the project and provide technical support. The project management team will have a proper project manager and assistants. So ano-ano nga ba yung mga firms na yon? So doon na pumapasok yung mga LGUs or the local government units and Department of Tourism, or which is the DOT, and other government offices. So the support staff arrange the site visits, interviews, or focus group discussions and workshops. The funding may come also from the DOT office, and still LGUs provide a counterpart support not just with the contract person but also sa itinerary planning, accommodation, and travel expenses for the planning team. So nakadepende sa plan scope and area coverage yung cost ng pagplano ng project. Just like for example, sorry. And lastly is the tourism planning is consultative. So there are several stakeholders or groups of people who could be affected by a tourism development. Stakeholders are an important source of local knowledge and provide barometer of the community sentiments about tourism development. So when we say consultative, it is used to refer to a formal group, such as a consultative committee that advises a government or a company that provides consultative service in a particular area of expertise. So sino-sino nga ba yung mga stakeholders in tourism? First one is the tourist suppliers, employees, education, utilities and infrastructure, the NGOs, the small and medium enterprises, transport, tourism organization and operators, and communities. So stakeholders can only be involved once you know who they are. So they must be identified and then approached and inquired as their interest and opinion. As an initial step, the MPA tourism planning team can be brainstormed with the local contacts about who to specifically invite or consult with, how to engage those individuals or groups. Once the key stakeholders have been identified, the team should be determining the best means of engaging different stakeholders based on their level of input and potential involvement in the future tourism development. For example, it may be necessary to hold individual consultation or workshops with local businesses and conservation groups, while explaining the overall process to the general public might be more easily achieved with a large public meeting. For example, in the Summer Island Tourism Master Development Plan, here are the following stakeholders na identify for consultation, like yung local chief executive, tourism councils, tourism officers, local planning and development coordinators, Sangguniang Bayan, chairperson of tourism development, local agriculture, for farm tourism, people's organizations, non-government organizations in tourism, barangay captains of barangays with tourism attractions, academe, DOT regional office, DILG local government operation officer, the DEN local officer, the Philippine National Police, Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, transport sector, protected area management board, if the area is in protected area, National Commission of Culture and Arts, and lastly is the National Commission of Indigenous People. Next slide, please. So let's go on to the importance of the tourism planning. So tourism planning is the tourism planning is fundamental to having a good tourism development program by reflecting on past failures or success. So planners avoid costly errors. Just like for example, nagkaroon ng failure sa ginawang plano ninyo. So, syempre, by having a tourism plan, mas madaling malalaman kung saang part ba kayo nagkulang or saang part ng plan nyo ang naging dahilan ng success ng iyong project. So, sa paggawa ng planner daw, ay mas maiiwasan ng pagkakaroon ng errors kasi nga, every step or every process ay nakaplano na. Next is, it helps us imagine scenarios and choose from alternative courses of action based on what we know and do not know. Planning is about making decisions based on available resources and opportunity. So planning is a process of determining goals, systematically selecting alternative courses of action to achieve those goals. So by tourism planning, mas nakakapag-imagine tayo ng mga scenarios and it allows us to explore a wide variety of destination development options that may arise naturally, organically or by design as the future unfolds. So most importantly, they serve to get the ball rolling and open the discussion about what the destination could be or should be in the future, which can lead to the creation of a tourism master plan or destination management strategy to help realize the future that the stakeholders would like to see. Next is tourism plan provides a legal basis for approval of requests for infrastructure projects, technical and financial assistance by the government and private and non-government organizations. So syempre, by having a tourism plan, meron kang legal basis or batayan para sa pag-aproba ng mga kailangan mo for your project. Mapa-infrastructure man yan, technical or financial assistance na kailangan mo by the government and private and non-government organizations. So, mas mapapadali kasi kung meron kang proof. Halimbawa sa government, kailangan mo ng financial assistance. Syempre, hindi naman papayag o hindi ka i-approve niyan hanggat wala kang plan na pinapropose sa kanila or wala kang katunayan na meron ka talagang project na bubuuin. And next is a good plan articulates priorities and describes the sequence of development to optimize time and resources. Isa din sa kagandahan na meron kang plan is mas makakapag-focus kayo at malalaman mo kung ano ba yung mga dapat pang i-prioritize. And also mas ma-optimize nga yung oras at resources na pagkukunan nyo for the project. And lastly, a good plan helps identity measures to prevent and mitigate such effects even before they happen. So planning provides a means for addressing complex problems in an imaginable way. So the most effective plans are clear, concise, and direct. So good planning involves projecting forward to influence events before they occur rather than attempting to respond as events unfold. So it actively avoids or mitigates issues before they arise by involving relevant stakeholders and creating shared partnership during the development phase. So sa pagpaplano ng isang project, we have to aware sa mga possibilities na maging problem or issues na so that makakapag-come up na kagad tayo ng solutions para ma-prevent or bago pa man mangyari lahat yun. And that's all for my part. Let me call Yasmin to proceed.
Thank you, Ms. Joanna. And okay. Hello, good day to everyone. My name is BANAY as Yasmin, and I'm also part of this group to present our topic and share some knowledge or ideas. So, as we start, there are few information to be discussed that mostly some of us already have an idea to what we are going to tackle, but this will help us to strengthen our knowledge until we graduate and use those in the future. Let us continue the discussion in the planning versus development. Is there anyone who have an idea when you hear planning versus development? I know naman that you cannot answer me right now because this is a recorded presentation and listening is a big help to us presenter that you may gain piece of knowledge in terms of what we are discussing about. So let me tell some information about planning versus development. It says here that planning and development are closely intertwined. A loosey plan will lead to impaired development. The quality of a plan depends on the quality of data, which is the accuracy and timeliness, and development paradigm adapted. Can one of my group mates, naririnig ba ako? Yeah, thank you. So, what it said that planning and development are having the same path to make to be easily understand. Pareho sila ng patutunguhan kung saan, when you plan, there are developing. Did you get it? Na kapag daw yung plano is hindi naging maayos or basta na iplano lang yung development, hindi ma-achieve kung ano yung expectation. Kaya dapat when you plan, give the best o kaya yung maayos so that the development will be successful. Sabi pa nga, inaccurate or stale data will cause wrong projections. Ayan, mahaba pa yan. So, doon na tayo sa pinaka. Sa tingin nyo, why do we need development to our tourism destinations? Of course, people tend to go in a place where it was eye-catchy or where even you just see, you might feel it relaxing, chill, or fun to experience when the place is good, inside and out. Like, if the place is clean and the facilities or services is good, then it means the plan is successful. But when we say development again, when time goes by, many destinations are need to develop again. Enable for us tourists to see new environment na kahit hindi nagbago yung kalakaran sa mismong place or destination, but the views environment are developed in a way that people will consider that those places are even na matagal na, pwede pa rin puntahan, maganda pa rin puntahan din. Are we getting it? So, let's tackle more information to be able for us na madagdagan pa yung idea natin. Sabi pa nga, the components of tourism development are often called the A's of tourism. So we have accessibility, accommodation, activities, amenities, ability, administration, awareness, and attitudes, meaning those are we need to have when planning a development in the tourism industry. Kasi those A's, if lalawakan natin yung isipan natin, ginamitan ang tourism industry na maging accessible sa lahat. Accessibility involves infrastructures and transportation. Infrastructure could be airports, seaports, roads, bridges, and terminals. Transportation modes could be land, water, and air, depending on the development area's geography. And size, sa tingin ko naman, alam na natin yung mga transportation that land, water, and air have. So one goal when planning for accessibility is not only providing a gateway. This is what they call the entry and exit point to and from the destination, but also internal connectivity. Convenient transportation interconnections create seamless connectivity. So for example, an airport that connects directly to the rail or bus lines via a dedicated train line or is located just a few steps outside the airport's arrival gates with the trains or buses going directly to the traveler's final destination. See that? Internal connectivity in a tourism is like a smart way of thinking, enable for the passenger or people to have a convenient transportation. So asahan natin that meron pang mga susunod na madedevelop kasi it is not just for the transportation, bagkot lahat ng sinasakop ng tourism industry. Baka sa susunod paglabas ng bahay natin, sakay agad o kaya pinto kasi sobrang smart nga, di ba? Nagiging tamad na yung mga tao. So kidding aside, guys, pero what I have said for the internal connectivity or convenient transportation is really a good way for us to get in a destination we are going to. Next one is the steps in tourism planning. Just a brief information, we have 5 steps in tourism planning that will be discussed later on. So the steps in tourism planning, the immediate output of tourism planning is a written plan. A plan is sometimes called a roadmap. Roadmaps should always be written on a paper so that they can provide consistent information for guidance. Concerned parties will be able to grasp a written plan more quickly. So when we say tourism planning, it consists of creating strategies to develop tourism in a specific destination. Knowing and understanding current trends allows those in the industry to tailor their operations to meet demand. Just like what it's mentioned in the book, that a plan sometimes called a roadmap because it was like a map where people will go. But the thing is, when planning in tourism, every sulok ng mundo, mga destinations need kasama para maipagpatuloy sa araw-araw ang tourism industry. Kaya nga lahat ng mga tourist destination is talagang ipinopromote ng mga websites kasi doon tayo lumalakas at kailangan when it was promoted, mas pinapaganda natin yung pagde-develop, especially sa mga owner ng mga tourist destinations. Kasi sila ang isa sa dahilan why our economy is still growing. Bumabagsak man, pero nagagawan pa rin ang paraan. And take note, destinations is not only the reason why our tourism industry grows. It was also because of our natural made by the people in different places and culture that also helps where we also import some goods into other countries. We also know naman na merong negative impact of importing goods and services there because when the money from other country will come here, our money will use to change it. Then, ang nagbababa ng presyo is ang economy natin kasi we change $1 or what in pieces of coins, of our coins. So that is why we need a better plan every day for the future of our industry or economy. So an LGU could use the planning project to maximize fund utilization, updates a previous plan or provide supporting documents to apply for a financial technical assistance. A subsequent chapter is devoted to the topic of full site assessment. Tourism planning is the same as other forms of planning. It involves the same basic steps. So these steps are listed as follows. So now we have this step one, the situational analysis. Situational analysis is basically the analysis of an LGU's or the destination's current position in terms of its attributes and the larger environment where it operates. It answers the question, where are we now? This step is also called the SWOT, which is the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. SWOT analysis involves internal and external assessment. So dito naman daw, when we say situational analysis, is kung saan i-base natin ang development, kung saan ang tourism sa ngayon o kasalukuyan, hindi pwede i-base natin siya. What is the, hindi lang, pero pwede. Path of tourism, di ba? Kasi we can develop something without realizing the present. And syempre, in any kind of plan yata talaga, SWOT analysis will always there. Why? Kasi in anything we plan, we need to know what will be the strength, weakness, and opportunities and threats enable for us to balance and make a wise decision for planning and development. Napipiyok na ako ah. So sabi dito, the internal review identifies the strength and weaknesses of the area under study. The external assessment helps spot opportunities and threats in the macro environment or factors that or beyond the LGU or the site. So, andito na tayo ngayon sa internal and external, where a decision will be looked on its inside and out. Again, ito yung sinasabi natin if it was gonna give a good impact or effects on our industry. Kasi kung titignan natin, malawak talaga ang tourism industry. And hindi lang siya basta sa mga accommodations, transportation, or ano pa. We also have to take care of the external factors of it, which dun mga nakakonect sa politics, economic, yung mga ganun. Sabi nga when we say external factors, it include political, economic, sociocultural, technological, environmental, and legal factors. So while internal factors include things like values, management, styles, human resources, technological and physical resources, and organizational structures. So a destination should determine its competitive advantage, location, scenic vistas, festival, cuisine, animal or plant or history. In formulating a tourism plan, it is important to review past tourism plans and relevant legal documents. A situation analysis will yield an analysis of trends. By analyzing past and present data, planners will be able to determine such movements. When planners fail to recognize critical trends promptly, the tourism sector may suffer from massive disruption. So as we said earlier, I don't know if you still remember that I said we should look also in the present to be able to know that development we need. So in addition, we have to look sa past din, sabi nga kanina, data to present and analyze what development are needed that had not been done before. Until now, in developing we need what is new but is still relevant from what it was before. So next, we have microenvironmental factors. One part of the situational analysis involves an assessment of microenvironmental factors. Refers to those that are internal to a planning unit, such as tourist destination, an LGU, a country, and the like. So it is a collection of forces of factors that are close to the organization and can influence the information as well as the day-to-day activities of the industry. Components of microenvironment are company, suppliers, marketing intermediaries, competitors, general public, and customers. Ganun lang din naman to. What I already explained, basta in planning, lagi nating tatandaan na there are data we need to gather, like the internal and external factors, and also past and present data to be able for us to perform a good development. So there's a destination, for example, needs to correct a weakness like the lack of roads or access to the tourist spots. A destination internal assessment should cover the following. We have the place of tourism within the broader development plans, review of laws and local ordinances, training needs analysis, tourism resources inventory and prioritization, and current and ongoing tourism-related projects. So, ayan. Training needs analysis is a critical component of this phase of planning. Training needs could be in the form of technical skills, business operations, and entrepreneurial skills. The technical Education and Skills Development Authority, which is the TESDA, and the DOT, Certified training centers could handle a variety of possible skills training. So who among us know TESDA? So it was already given here the idea of what is TESDA, which is was the program that are capable for those who want to be trained, and it was like we graduated from the skills we have learned. Pero ganun na nga din yun. So planning needs a training before we really came up to the decision again para sa mga nagawa natin, yung pinaka the best plan for certain destinations or any part of tourism industry. Syempre, we have also micro. We also have macro. For those not irregular students, we have already studied micro and macro, right? Micro and macro. So it was because they are part of the industry of tourism that gives us more understanding what the differences of both of them. Now, macro environmental. So factors. The other half of the situational analysis involves the assessment of macro environmental factors. It refers to those that are external to a planning unit, which was explained previously. So the macro environment can be systematically analyzed using the acronym TESTEL. This acronym stands for political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental events. Again, natakal ko naman na to. Let's just proceed reading some piece of information given in the book. You can also look on your book while listening to every part of our topic. So next one, we have the following table shows some. Ayan, on our next is the following table shows some developments that have affected the tourism industry. We have the political, which decentralization of tourism functions, economic, the rise of the BPO industry, social, liberal attitudes to solo or couple travel, technological, the adoption of an online booking platform, legal, stricter statutory requirements for environment safety and PWD access. Environmental is the COVID-19 virus. So as we can see, is it the positive or negative effect to tourism industry? In my own understanding, there are positive and negative, but still helps to rise our industry. Even there are circumstances na bumagsak ang economy natin because of the COVID-19, but still right now, unti-unting bumabalik at nade-develop. Maybe, totoo naman talaga yung sinasabing everything happens for a reason, na baka nga siguro nangyari ang pandemic is just for us to be able to think a plan and develop a new way how people will enjoy the tourism industry could offer. We just have given a time to rest and think. Diba? Think positive. So makikita talaga natin yung mga external factors is also a part of tourism industry kasi sa kanila tayo kumakapit. Pero tayo din ang dahilan why they also benefited. So competitive analysis is also part of the macro environmental assessment. A destination needs to evaluate how it fares relative to other destinations. On global scale, the World Travel and Tourism Council's Competitiveness Index contains the following sub-indices: enabling environment, travel and tourism, policy and enabling conditions, infrastructure, and natural and cultural resources. Next one is the pillar constitute each of the sub-indices. We have enabling environment, and the bullet there, travel and tourism policy and enabling conditions, infrastructure, and natural and cultural resources. And that concludes my part in the presentation. Thank you, and let's welcome our next presenter, Mr. Kyle Reyes, for the continuation of our topic.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. Next slide, please. So the second step in tourism planning is setting a goal and objectives. After knowing where we are, the next question to ask is, where do we want to be? To answer this, to have a define our goals and objectives. Goals and objectives refer to what a destination or an LGU wants to achieve after a certain period of time. As you may have already learned, goals are more general and a long-term orientation. They are qualitatively stated. So examples of goals are to increase women participation in the tourism industry, to provide sustainable livelihood opportunities to the population, or to become the leading agritourism destination in Eastern Visayas. So planner breaks down goals in objectives, which are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Taking off from the first example of the goals above, we can state our objectives as follows. To increase the proportion of locally hired staff by 5% from 2020 to 2025, through being the proportion of locally sourced produced from 10% to 30% from 2025 up to 2030 rather, and to train at least 50 women participants in local souvenir making in every year in the next 3 years. Tourism development goals traditionally revolve around economic targets like managing arrivals, revenue, income, and taxes, and employment and livelihood generation. In recent years, tourism development plans incorporate poverty alleviation, microbusiness, generation, gender and development, risk reduction, and climate response. Furthermore, tourism goals and objectives should reflect the desired development outcomes and typically include aspects of socioeconomic benefits while minimizing associated environmental and socio-cultural impacts. So the step 3 in tourism planning is formulating strategies. The third task is formulate strategies. Strategies tell us how to go from where we are or where we want to be. Planners state strategies in broad strokes. Tourism development strategies will be explained in a separate chapter. Strategy formulation is the process of using available knowledge to document a company's intent direction and actionable steps to achieve its goal. This process is used for resource allocation, prioritization, organizational alignment, and business goal validation. An effective strategy allows your organization to share a single, clear vision, detect biases by examining the reasoning behind goals, and track performance using measurable key performance indicators. Next slide, please. So the step 4 in planning, tourism planning is determining an action plan. Planners translate strategies into tactics or action plans, implementation plans. The action uh, provides breakdown of programs and projects and activities. The specific who or what entity is responsible for the specific activities. The Department of Tourism Guidebook for LGUs give us an example of an action plan. Some example of the specific projects under the tourism are the Tourism Road Infrastructure Program, Converge program between the DOT and the Department of Public Works and Highways, or the DPWH. It aims to make priority tourism sites accessible through the construction of roads to such sites. It also benefits local communities and tends to reduce the incidence of insurgency in those areas. Another is Accreditation on Wheels, a project that brings the DOT offices to tourism establishments that need to be accredited by the DOT. And lastly, the step 5 in tourism planning is monitoring and evaluation. The last step in tourism planning is monitoring and evaluation. This stage should be an essential component of any tourism plan. The purpose of this step is to compare the results with the stated goals and objectives. When there are deviation, LGUs and other government or private entities needs to adjust the implementation. Monitoring requires of use of benchmark or milestones. These benchmarks are called indicators, which may be environmental, economic, or social. The indicators used will depend on what aspects of a plan are important to the LGU or the destination. For example, if an employment generation is important, then an important indicator to be monitored will be the number of types of jobs generated by the tourism sector for each period. Other examples are the air or water pollution index, tourist receipts, or the number of indigenous people engaged in the tourism business. So monitoring will require the following information. We have success indicators, target per indicators, data resource for stated indicators, collection method, frequency of collection, and responsible entity. And we have also the inclusion of women in tourism development is a priority. The following indicators may be used: number of women trained for livelihood, the proportion of women in the rank and file supervisory and management position in tourism, women engaged in a productive employment or paid work, and women experiencing sexual harassment at work. The planning process sometimes does not follow the aforementioned outline steps. Sometimes a goal is already predetermined by an agency that commissions a planning firm to flesh out the details. The process is also iterative because after monitoring the evaluation, another planning cycle may commence, including refinements in the target of strategies. So that is the steps in tourism planning. Next slide, please, for the chapter summary. Chapter summary, I will read it for Jade. Chapter 1 has provided an overview of tourism planning. Its importance is the relation to tourism development as well as the factors in planning of the various steps involved. Provide an overview of importance of tourism planning. This chapter discusses many variables that need to be considered when formulating a tourism plan. It includes both external factors and macro environment and internal factors in the planning unit's microenvironment. The steps involved in planning process situation analysis, setting goals and objectives, formulating strategies, determining an action plan, and monitoring and evaluation were emphasized. These steps lead to the components of a tourism plan which must be aligned with each other. Next slide, please. So that concludes our report. We are the group 1 for this chapter and hope you listen very well. Thank you.